Hey, everybody. Welcome to the official Do Good Better podcast. I'm your host, Patrick Kirby. And of course, we talk about things that our small and medium-sized nonprofit friends can do to fundraise more effectively and more awesome. But sometimes you get connected with an organization that doesn't necessarily on the surface have anything to do with small nonprofits, yet we're going to learn a whole heck of a lot. With me today, Lissa Zanville. She's the executive director of the Los Angeles Trial Lawyers Charities. It is, and again, I don't think most people, when they say trial lawyers, Charities doesn't necessarily pop up. And yet we're going to find today that what they're doing out in Los Angeles and expanding across the country is something remarkable that you can emulate here at home and at your nonprofit, regardless of your size. Lissa, welcome to the official Do Good Better podcast.
Thank you so much for inviting me, Patrick. I really appreciate this.
I'm very excited to chat with you today. What you are doing in Los Angeles is pretty amazing, and I've got so many questions for you. However, if people are running through YouTube and they're looking at iTunes and they like the idea of like, I'm very interested in this, but they have no idea who you or your organization is, I would love you to give a 5,000-foot view on who Lissa Zanville is, executive director of Los Angeles Trial Lawyers Charities is, and the floor is yours.
Oh, thank you very much. First, I'll tell you what the Los Angeles Trial Lawyers is as an organization. We are made up of plaintiff attorneys. These are the attorneys that go after bad business practices, bad medicine, bad employment law, personal injury. We're plaintiff attorneys that started this organization exactly 15 years ago. September 6th, we were incorporated 15 years ago. When we started, it was a handful of plaintiff attorneys who did good things on their own, but thought that it would be better to join together, raise some money, and then volunteer for different organizations that they supported. We started with 4 organizations. We started with about 6 to 10 volunteers, and we have now grown to 106 nonprofits that we support because we're a pass-through charity, and about 3,000 supporters in the last 15 years. What we do is twofold. We raise money as a pass-through. What we raise, we give away. We give away in grants. We've given over $5 million over the years for the community. And we also do volunteer service. So once a month, we will create a turnkey volunteer project from some of our 106 nonprofits. So once a month, people go on our website and they volunteer for different activities. And then we say, okay, show up at this time, at this place, and we'll tell you what to do. And it's everything from painting low-income housing to gardening for an exceptional children's foundation to doing a Mother's Day project that we just had, a Mother's Day party for mothers that we were celebrating with a youth center. So it's a variety, not just of the type of work that people can volunteer for, but also the geography. I don't know if you understand, but Los Angeles is pretty big. Yeah. So you can't walk to another location. You can't even drive to another location easily. The joke is everything is 45 minutes away. And so we will plan our events throughout the county so that anyone can volunteer. Another important part of it is that they're family friendly. We want people to bring their whole families to participate. I love it when we had at the Venice Community Housing, we painted a brick wall, a concrete wall. So you don't have to be an artist to do this. And there were kids as little as 5, 7 years old painting away with their parents. And this type of activity really brings a family closer together, teaches children how to volunteer and give back to the community. And it's just a fun day. And they're usually just 2 to 3 hours on a Saturday or sometimes during the week.
That's fantastic. First of all, I love the generational philanthropy mindset, right? So if you get them young into doing good, they're going to continue on. for a long time forward. Los Angeles, again, being in flyover country, North Dakota, in which I believe 4 square blocks of Los Angeles make up the entire state population of North Dakota. There's a lot of stuff, and there's a lot of social issues and a lot of sort of things that one could do to make the world a better place in a city so large, or in sort of an area so large. But you can't be everything to all people, right? So how is there a sort of a niche in certain specific areas in which your organization helps? And how did you come to that conclusion with this is kind of what we wanted to focus on?
We focus on 5 areas: children, education, survivors of abuse, persons with disabilities, and probably the biggest problem in Los Angeles right now, which is homelessness. And so we try to, our grants are all within those silos of interest and activities. So we're a little flexible, but it really is trying to focus on it. And when someone applies for a grant with us, they have to fit into at least one of those categories, sometimes multiple categories.
Sure. While you're setting something like this up, and you've got such a diverse amount of individuals who are sort of a part of the Trial Lawyers Association, and they're trying to figure that out, what's the process by which you pick your volunteer opportunities? Sort of widespread opportunities across the board. How do you focus in on 1 or 2 of those, as like there's so many people who have so many needs for bodies to do good there?
Yes. Well, the first and foremost element that we have to decide on is, am I going to have fun? That I have to do it every project. I think in 5 years that I've been with LATLC, I have missed 1 service project in 5 years. So if I don't have fun, I know my audience will not have fun. So that's the first thing that I think about. Then we have 106 nonprofit organizations. Some of these projects that we do are annual. They have become so popular that we do it every year. For example, the Los Angeles Mission, which is in the middle of Skid Row, we started doing Valentine's Day at the Mission. So we serve lunch, we cook and serve lunch. We also decorate the entire cafeteria, so it's all red and pink and balloons and all over the place. Hand out candy to everybody who comes through and gives them a personalized Valentine. So that's a project we'll do every year. There's also a group called Buddy Ball, which is children and adults with disabilities have a buddy who helps them play baseball. And it could be that they're in a wheelchair and somebody will help them hit the ball with a bat and push them around the different bases, etc. And then we will provide something to the teams every year. So it could be new uniforms, it could be new equipment, something like that. And that's a big event. Then we also have what we call signature events. It started about 5-6 years ago, where we didn't want to be dependent on a nonprofit to come up with these events. We wanted to do something on our own. So we partnered with the New Prospect Baptist Church in South Central Los Angeles and decided to have a turkey and toy giveaway. It has grown so much. We are now working with the Newton Police Department, and we have 2,000 people, thousands of toys that we give away. We have pre-pandemic, we had a holiday village and we had hundreds of volunteers that came and helped out at this event. That was like the best event that we have done. And I'll digress a little. During the pandemic, obviously we could not do the same event that we had done in the past with the village, but we still wanted to give away to an area that really needed food, household items, and toys for kids. So the partnership with the Newton Police Department, they became patrol car Santas. All of the item stuff that we had ordered, the toys, the canned goods, everything was delivered to the police department. And while our volunteers were scheduled to assemble the bags for everybody, and we were going to do a drive through where families could get the bags of goodies, the Monday of the planning of it, the surge came, and we couldn't have volunteers. Even the police department was having problems. None of this could happen. And the police stepped in, assembled every bag, became what they called patrol car Santas, and physically delivered to 550 families in South Central Los Angeles.
That is, that's unbelievable. I think that pivot for an organization that serves so many people and so many organizations, I think is audacious enough. But I think that gives hope to some of the smaller organizations who think, oh, well, I don't know what sort of impact I can make, especially if something gets thrown my way or a monkey wrench gets thrown into it. And I think that's just fantastic. One of the things that I think when people are not of LA, they don't live in California, they're part of the middle of America. You mentioned Newton, South Central, Skid Row. I think from a holy crap, that is a major undertaking of major proportions. And we sort of outside of LA see that. I'm like, wow, those are some areas that we all know sort of have problems. And I also think that maybe some organizations would look at sort of trying to help in those particular areas as, nope, it's too big of a problem. It's too big of an issue. We can't make a difference. But your vibe and your the way that you talk about this is these small acts make bigger impact down the line. Are you finding that as part of your organization, your volunteer things? Because I think normally organizations get overwhelmed of like, I don't know if I'm going to make an impact. I don't know if I'm going to make a difference. Can you talk a little bit about what that does? Because I think from your organization, from LA itself, if you're seeing positive change, then everywhere else who doesn't see, $5 million distribution of grants or whatever, they can sort of wrap their head around like, okay, well, we can do that in our own small town, small organizations, middle America kind of thing as well.
Absolutely. Everything that we do, the goal is to see someone's face smile, somebody smile, and to know that you're personally making a difference in somebody's life. And it can be, even when during the pandemic, there was a long time where we didn't know, can we do any volunteer projects? How can we do something? We did them by Zoom. Yeah. We did, I think one of the first ones we did was, there's a group called Ability First, and they have a camp with adults with limited abilities. And so we decided we'd do a St. Patrick's Day type event where we did a craft, and they taught us as volunteers an Irish jig. So this was all by Zoom. It was not something that we had to go and create something huge. It was all done very small, and every one of those kids and adults that participated in this, whether they were a volunteer on our end or somebody who was part of the camp, it was amazing. The first event I ever went to when I started was called SoCal Trikers, where they presented adaptive tricycles for special needs kids in some form or another. And we donated 3 bikes. We paid for 3 bikes. And at that event, all of us said, we've got to do more than this. We can't just do 3 bikes, because these were kids as little as 2 years old getting an adaptive bicycle all the way up to adults. And for many of them, it was the first time they could trade a wheelchair for new wheels. And I said after that event, number one, after each one of these, I'm either going to be sitting in my car crying, or I'm going to have the biggest high I have ever had. And some of these, it's one or the other from doing these events. But we have taken that small event that we started and created a great trike giveaway where we do 15 bikes at a time in a parade. You had mentioned about getting young kids involved in philanthropy. There were two sisters who would always come with their mom to our volunteer events for years and years. And last year they came to us and said, we'd like to start youth ambassadors. We would like to start our own LATLC program where we could get high school and junior high school kids involved in philanthropy as a way of giving back. And the youth ambassadors have been phenomenal. Not only do they help us at our events, they also do their own events, and they have been doing those by Zoom also.
That's fantastic. I don't ever think that an organization, especially of your size, does anything alone and in a vacuum. And I'm wondering if you can talk a little bit about the partnerships that you have with your organizations or with groups that you work with side by side or in conjunction with. And I just, the idea of collaboration in a time of post-COVID, I think is going to be so absolutely necessary while everybody's kind of getting back up on their feet. Are there any sort of examples of this type of thing where you've invited other groups who may be considered competition in the fundraising realm, but you get them to go? I hate that word. It's so funny. That's the air quotes. If you're listening to this, were very exaggerated in competition. Air quotes for competition. But we think of nonprofits as competitive with each other for money and time and talent and treasure. Who have you worked with that said, no, we're all working towards the same goal of making the world a more inclusive place, a more, uplifting place? I'd love to talk to a little bit about that kind of partnership.
Well, first of all, I love the word partnership because we actually call our nonprofits partner charities.
Love it.
So the first thing is we work with all these nonprofits as partners. So they will tell us what they need, and then we will try to work with them to fulfill their need. This weekend, we're doing a food drive for an organization in the San Fernando Valley. Then you talk about competitors, which leads us to expansion, the way that we are growing as an organization. California is so protective of its counties that each area has its own personality, its own donor base, it has its own whatever. But the people the trial lawyers in Orange County wanted to create an organization similar to ours. And we could say, hey, that's a competitor. We're going after the same donors. We're going after the same nonprofits. Au contraire, as they say, this is the idea of bringing the idea of philanthropy, not just throughout Southern California. We would love to do it in Northern California. We'd love to do it in other states. And it is so easy to do good anywhere. And who better to know your community, but groups in your community? The Orange County Trial Lawyers Charities is just kicking off right now. And they've actually done their first service project with a group that helps homeless mothers and children. So we never would know that group. And so it's expanding the good. Now, the partnerships with other charities, we haven't done that in the same way. However, I mentioned the Newton Police Department. They will come to us and say, there's a family who's having problems. Can you help them out? And they have their own nonprofit associated with it. We'll give to that nonprofit in order to help a local family. So you can't think of it as competition. The ultimate goal is to do good.
Yeah.
And if the ultimate goal is to do good, any element that gets you there, any activity that gets you there is a winner.
And that's that abundant mindset that I think a lot of nonprofits need to always keep on the forefront. And I love the fact that a Newton police officer will say that this family particularly has some needs. We know that you have some means to help. We know that we've got an organization that can do that. You're helping make that a reality. There's no, you're not stealing money away from anybody else. You're not taking it away from another organization. You're making that connection. And then really what are the long-term benefits of somebody like a Newton police officer reaching out to a family and then offering that help and that service? And then what does that do for generational relationship to police in the community? Like, that is such a massive impact on those, what you would assume is a small scale. And that's what I think is so interesting about that. And you mentioned expansion too, which I think is interesting. Not only in Los Angeles, but beyond. How have people sort of reached out to you and say, we would like to do this in our community? And is there an opportunity when people are listening to say, hey, this is something that I think our, trial lawyers in our neck of the woods would like to participate in? Then, because again, we don't have this competition mindset. You want to expand everywhere we can go. What's that been like? What have people approached you with, and what's your ultimate game plan to expand?
Well, sky's the limit is the way I feel.
Yes.
Doing good should not have a border or a boundary. That what we want to do is to expand the mission of LATLC, which is to do good in our community and to be recognized for doing good too. As trial lawyers, you mentioned at the beginning that trial lawyers don't always have the best reputation,
Yeah.
but our sort of tagline is justice in the courtroom and service in the community. Right. And that's exactly what we do. We are the lawyers who help people with bad medicine, bad business practices. A lot of times we will be on the other side of the police department in a case, but having a relationship with the Newton Police Department helps in communication, that not everybody is the enemy and not everybody is a competitor, that you can find ways to work together as an organization. And looking beyond our borders, anybody can contact LATLC. And I'll give you my, we can make it easy by info@latlc.org. That's info@latlc.org. And I get the emails. So if there's an area that is interested, we have a playbook. We have a logo that we've designed. We have, we can help you kickstart your group so that you can make a difference in your own community.
I love that. I love what you said about you working with organizations and groups that might be combative in other situations, whether it's courtroom or sort of, in trial. Ultimately understanding that there is, outside of that, a need to make a positive impact. And so I really appreciate that. I would be remiss if I didn't ask about how your fundraising as an organization has been. One of the things that I think COVID has taught us is that the need for revenue is the difference between being able to do and sit on the sidelines. So what sort of ways does your organization fundraise? How do they do it outside of, particular events or anything? What's the appeal to a donor that is looking at a laundry list of organizations and they find the Los Angeles trial lawyers at Charities? What's the appeal to a donor that says, I want in on what you're doing?
Okay, well, in a normal year, like pre-2000, 2020, we had two big fundraising events. We had what was a casino night, and then we also had a golf tournament. We have changed so I'll go through what happened in 2020. Obviously, as a pass-through, what we raise is what we give away. So if we don't raise anything, we don't give anything away. And it started with college scholarships, because that is one of our signature programs that we do, is that we give out 10 scholarships every year. These kids were losing their prom, their senior activities, their entire last year, and we weren't going to stand for that. So we tried to figure out, how can we raise money so that we could do it for the college scholarships? That was the first goal. So we did, instead of a casino night poker tournament, we decided to do a virtual fundraising poker tournament. And it was definitely, money was going to go only to the college scholarships. And the goal was to raise enough for 10 scholarships. Well, we didn't do that. We raised enough for 12 scholarships and had a great night, all virtual. Then the grants, we give out like $250,000 to $500,000 every year. Again, whatever we raise. And we couldn't do that in a poker tournament. So we took advantage of the fact that it was our 15th anniversary and decided to do a tribute book. And we not only raised money in the tribute book, we gave away $253,000 in grants from the revenue from the tribute book. So that's how we started to do it. Then we had Comfort and Joy, which is our holiday event. How are we going to raise money for that? We did another poker tournament and we raised $50,000 from that to buy all the items. So having a smaller fundraising event that was very targeted, people knew what they were giving their money for. They knew how much everything was going to cost. They could buy what we called a basket of goods. They could pay for baby goods. They could pay for diapers and things like that. They could pay for toys, things like that, and contribute that way. And that's how we raised the $50,000. So now we're getting into the hybrid and the opening up. We're opening up in California, so we're real excited. We were blessed insofar as we booked August 14th for our in-person fundraiser, being very optimistic that it could happen.
Yes.
Very optimistic. And we planned at the hotel to be on the pool level, so there would be a lot of fresh air and open space and limit the number. But we decided a casino night just didn't fit in a post-pandemic world. So we decided to call it Summer Soiree, Party with a Purpose. So there isn't a program per se that night, but every element at the event is connected to one of our partner charities and is sponsored, to the point of, we have a live band. Well, we also have a group called the Harmony Project that teaches low-income kids about musical instruments. So there's a partnership there. Yeah. Even the gift bag items were either created by a partner charity, or they're a part of their organization in some form or another, like candles made by teaching homeless women a trade. So they have a store at the Downtown Women's Center. We are including candles, and each one of those is being sponsored. So I've said there is no program that night. The whole event is our program. You will learn about 106 nonprofit organizations that we partner with. Plus, you're going to have a heck of a good time. It's going to be music and great food and all the things we always do, but it'll be done safely.
Again, if it's not fun, I know you're not doing it, so that's going to be good. If you had one upcoming project that you are sort of super excited about now that things are kind of opening up on the horizon, what's one of the projects that you're just sort of really excited about that now we can get back together a little bit, that's upcoming, that you're just kind of jazzed about?
Well, I think it's the Great Trike Giveaway. We booked it for September 18th, and we are going to be funding 15 adaptive bicycles for special needs kids. And I want to say you have to be there, or go to our website and look at the photos, because these are little kids to adults who are getting these tricycles, some of which they can ride themselves. Some have a large pole that a parent behind them will push so that they can participate. One year we did this, and I remembered the family that got the bike. Something about them kind of struck something with me. And I think her name was Evangeline, and she couldn't even communicate. She was a teenager, but she couldn't communicate. But the whole family was just so uplifting and so excited to get the bikes. A few weeks later, I got a card and photos from them that I'm going to start crying because it was really good.
Yeah.
Where the mother wrote that this was the first time that she could play with her sisters, her younger sisters, and she could ride a bike with her sister, and showed pictures of it. You talk about making a difference. We made a difference in Evangeline's life, and nothing changes that, and nothing can beat that at all.
If people are, I love that, first of all, and it's the best. And again, throughout this entire podcast, you had such great stories, throughout today. And I just love that you can, occasionally you need a little extra oomph on Zoom to sort of showcase your enthusiasm. You don't, for you. And I'm just, it's kudos to you and your organization to even thrive through a pandemic and still making awesome impact in a really large area. And I think that's just the thing that from a spatial concept, I think us in flyover country just kind of like, I don't understand how that actually works. And you've given some really good insight to that. And I just really appreciate those what you appear to be small acts, major changes kind of thing. It's just awesome. If someone's listening and they want to make sure that they get in contact with you, they want to go visit and they want to check out all your events, they want to come in some sort of form or fashion, they want to help out. How do people get a hold of you? How do people go and check out your organization, and how do they help?
Okay, first, we have a website like everybody has. So it's LATLC.org, Los Angeles Trial Lawyers Charities.org. So LATLC.org. They can contact me directly by just doing info. That's easier than spelling my name. info@latlc.org. So that's how they can learn. And there is a click for volunteering. And I list all of the opportunities that are currently available, that all you have to do is say, sign up for the event. Sign up for it. Then a couple of weeks or a week before, I will start sending them fact sheets and details, where to sign up, where to show up, what they need to wear. We have t-shirts for all our volunteers that you get to keep. And so to be proud about being an LATLC volunteer. You can also donate to us in any amount. We also have what we call an honorary board of governors and sponsors. So if you are an attorney, you can be part of our honorary board of governors, and your picture and your name is up there, links to your website. From $1,000 all the way up to $50,000, we have listed people. And if you're a company that wants to help out in any form, you can be a sponsor, and we will add your logo to the website also. It goes from $1,000 all the way up.
I love it. We'll put all of those links in the show notes, and click on them often and just kind of check out what they're doing. And again, use them as sort of motivation and inspiration as you're sort of creating your events. It's like, hey, if we can make a difference in our community, I don't really know how. Go check out our friends at the Los Angeles Trial.
I am a firm believer in stealing from each other.
Yes,
so,
we borrow. Remember, we borrow. That is that's our air quotes. So we're going to borrow ideas. And those are where the best, that's the best compliment ever, right? Lissa, thank you so much for being a guest on the podcast. I learned so much about your organization. So excited for you on expansion. So excited that, and again, we didn't even get to this. You're a one-person shop running the show here. And so don't think of it as, having this 3,800 people working in an office doing all the back end work. No, what you're listening to and who you're chatting with is the show out in LA. And so I just appreciate your overly optimistic, overly enthusiastic positivity about making change in the world. And you just did a fantastic, you're doing fantastic work. And thank you so much for being a guest on the official Do Good Better podcast.
Thank you so much.